Hi. So in this video, let us kind of, we've refactored our character controller to work with the state machine. Let's just make one mechanic using our state machine. I'm going to make a dash mechanic. So let's make a dash mechanic using our state machine. We're going to make a new dash state and, get our player dashing, really. Let's start with the complete boilerplate, which is I need some controls for it. So this is going to be the same stuff we've done for move, or we'll jump and sprint. I'm going to make a control for dash. Going to add a new control, call it dash with a capital D. Give it a binding. I think I'm using shift for sprint, so I'll use left control. Save that. And then in our input manager, we need to add everything here. So I need to add a private input action dash action. We need to do the same thing, add a public bool dash input, give it a good get private set. Next thing is to find the actual input action. So dash action equals action map dot find action dash. And then I'm just gonna make just subscribe the functions here and make the function later on. So dash action dot perform plus equal to, I'm gonna call it on dash. It's gonna give me an error right now. That's fine. Dash action dot canceled minus equal to on dash. Oops, this should also be plus equals. Then let's just unsubscribe when the thing gets destroyed. Dash action dot perform minus equal to on dash. Dash action dot canceled minus equal to on dash. And then let's actually make the dash function. Void on dash. It's gonna take a parameter of input action dot callback context. And the same thing we did for sprint and jump. Dash input will be equal to the context dot read value float is greater than 0, true or false. And then in our character motor, we want to add a new input here. Bool dash input. And then in our get inputs function, let's just get that. So dash input equals input manager dot dash input. Okay, and then back up here, let's just make some variables that we're going to be using for our dash. So I'm going to make a new header for that. Call it dash. I make a few serialized fields. So we're going to need a serialized field for our dash speed. I'll give it some value. I'll just give it 12. Oops, I didn't give it a type, so it's a float. We're going to need a float for our dash time. Give it a very small number. Another serialized field for our cooldown, right? We can't just keep dashing, so we'll have a dash cooldown. Give it whatever number you want. I'll give it half a second. We can always change it. And then we'll just have a private float called last dash time. And I'm just going to set this to -999f. And what this last dash time is going to do, it's just going to count the last time that we dash. So we're going to use a slightly different type of timer system. We've looked at a type of timer system where we use the delta time and keep adding to our timer. If our timer goes past our maximum of the timer, we just reset everything and we know the timer is done. This is going to use a slightly kind of different system for that. And then we need a couple of helper functions. which I will just add above face move. One of them is going to be a function that returns a Boolean, and it's just going to tell us if we can dash now. So I'll call it can dash now. And it is going to return if time dot time. So time dot delta time returns the time that a frame took to render. Time dot time just returns the time since our application has started running. So when I double click my app and it starts running, time starts at 0, and it just counts upwards from there. So time dot time is just going to return that. And so if time dot time is greater than our last dash time plus last dash time plus the cooldown, the dash cooldown, it should return true. And what is our last dash time going to be? Well, we'll make a new function called public void mark dashed. And this is just going to set our last dash time to time dot time. So what's happening here is when we dash on, when we enter the dash state, we're going to mark our dash with this time dot time. And so time dot time, whatever it is, if we're 5 seconds into our app running, last dash time will be 5. And then when we check if we can dash now, if 5 plus our dash cooldown, however long we have our cooldown set, is less than the current time, so we haven't elapsed that cooldown time, well, we're going to return false. But once this thing is over our time dot time, or time dot time is greater than our last dash time plus the cooldown, that means we've gone past the cooldown time, we can dash again. And then finally, let's add a function to actually make us move in that dash state. I'll call it move dash. And this needs to take a direction. The direction we're going to be dashing in. And this one's just going to call cc.move with that direction multiplied by the dash speed. So it's, it's a big speed that it's going to move us with. And since we're moving, time dot delta time. And finally, we need to set up a new dash state. So let us go back into Unity. Close out of here. And in my states, I'm going to make a new monobehavior dash state. Actually, I did forget one helper function here. So we have this variable we made here called dash time, right? So that's how long we want our dash to kind of happen before we go back into our ground or air state. And so I'm just going to add another function here, public void get dash time. And all that's going to do, in fact, it shouldn't be void, it should be a float. And that's just going to return dash time. Okay, now let's go on to our dash state, which is here. Let's just create it. Open up our dash state. And really, we don't need any of this stuff because this is going to be of type I state. So as soon as I do that, I'm just going to write out all the functions. So void on enter, void on exit, and void tick. Just write these out so that, and they need to be public. Okay, and that gets rid of that little error. Perfect. So our dash state also needs the character motor, and it needs the character Statemachine sm. Let's also make the constructor for it. So void dash state. It's going to take in a character motor, and it's going to take a character Statemachine. And we just set it. Right, we don't need this void because it is a function. We just need to call it with public. There you go. Okay. Lastly, we need two more variables here. One, we actually need a vector 3. For that move, we need to get our move, which this is our movement direction. And we'll have a float called time. I'm just going to shorten this time to t. This is going to be the float we use to kind of calculate our dash time, you know, how long we want to be in this dash state. We're just going to use this float t for that. So we're going to actually use the on enter for here. I'm going to start off by just, debug.log and let us know that we are entering dash state. So we want to first, get the dash time. That's what we're going to set this motor to. So motor equal to get dash time. So this is going to get how long our dash is, And because we've entered this dash state, now we need to do the motor.markDashed. So what we're doing here is we are now saying we are dashing. So we're setting that last dash time to the current time our game is in. We then need to get our facing direction. So first let's get the camera transform. Then, just like we do in our movements, we're going to make a forward and a right. The reason we don't do this in tick is because our dash is only going to happen once. We're not going to be constantly updating our dash direction. We're just going to do it once. Our player commits to the direction they're dashing in. And then we want to get the facing direction. So motor.get facing direction. We need to pass out the forward and the right. And then let's create that movement vector. So motor.get relative move. Okay, now here is one caveat when it comes to dashing as opposed to something like movement. With movement, if my player wasn't pressing any button and this move value was 0, that's fine, right? Like our player will just be stopped. On the other hand, when it comes to dashing, if our player isn't pressing any key and they press the dash direction, it's I think it's a little unintuitive if our player doesn't move at all. Instead, they should move towards the direction they're already facing. So what we're going to check is if we'll just set our move to if our move dot square magnitude, again, square magnitude is the same as magnitude, just quicker to calculate, is bigger than some small number, in this case 0.01f. If it is bigger than this number, that means we are pressing the direction, we're pressing the direction, we can go in that direction. And so we'll just set it to move.normalize. So we just normalize the direction. Otherwise, we'll just set it to the motor's forward. So whatever the forward vector is for our character, let's just, push him in that direction. And so one time when we enter this frame, we only need to do this one time, right? We calculate what direction we're moving. And so in tick, we can actually do the dashing. So the first thing I'm going to do in tick is just subtract our t with time dot delta time. And so this dash timer, I'm doing this the same way we've done the other timer, where we're just subtracting it from delta time. And then, when it goes past a number, in this case 0, we know that our dash is done with. So we're going to start subtracting that time, and we're going to call motor.move dash move. And then if our timer is less than or equal to 0, so when that timer, it starts off, in this case, our dash time is 0.15 seconds. So every frame, this 0.15 is going to be subtracted by the time it took to render the frame. At some point, it's going to go below 0. We know our dash is over. And when our dash is over, if our if our character is grounded, well, if they're grounded, then we're just going to set the state to a new grounded state and pass along the state machine and the motor. And really, I realized that everywhere in the constructor, I'm doing state machine and motor, state machine and motor, but here I'm doing motor and state machine. So I'm just going to change that up so that, we're like following a convention. So make sure to get the state machine first and then get the character motor. And this is just so that when I call this, like when we set this new state machine, we're always doing in the same way. State machine motor, state machine motor. Okay, so if our character is grounded, we set it to a new grounded state. If it's not grounded, well, they're in the air. So let us sm.set state new dash, not dash state, sorry, air state sm comma motor. And finally, we need to actually set a transition to our dash state. Well, we can dash in the air and we can dash in the ground. So let us just set that. I think as soon as we get the inputs, if we're dashing, we want to dash. So if input dot, it's not input, it's if input manager dot dash input, I did it with a capital, so if input manager, I see, I shouldn't be calling it, I'm gonna call them motor dot dash input, dash input. Okay, this is where things need to be a little bit different actually. So in our character motor, I'm just gonna make my dash input I'm gonna just set it with a public getter and a private setter. So get private set. That way we can just get the input from our, we were doing grounded state. So in our grounded state, we can get the dash input. So if our motor.dash input and motor.can dash now, so only if we pressing the input and we can dash, well, sm.set state new dash state and pass along the sm and the motor. Same thing in the air. Just after we get our inputs, we do the exact same thing. And I think that should be it. So when we are in the grounded state, if we press the dash input and we can dash now, where can dash now is can dash now is if the time.time is greater than our last dash cooldown plus the last time we dashed, then we want to switch into the dash state. And what does the dash state do? We first just get the direction we're facing, and then we just keep calling this quick dash movement, right? Dash is going to have like a much bigger speed than our regular sprint or walking. We're just going to keep calling that. We're not going to be getting the direction the players are pressing. We're not going to be moving them in a new direction. We're just going to keep dashing in that same direction until this T, which is our dash time, gets below 0, and then we'll just switch back to our other states. So let's see if this worked. Hit play. Looking in different directions, and I can dash. You can tell when I'm dashing. In fact, when I'm dashing, I could hit different directions, and it doesn't matter. You can make your dash even longer if you want to. So let us try. Just make like an absurdly long dash of 2 seconds. And I can hit keys, nothing happens. And it goes in the direction I'm facing. Right now I'm not pressing any direction. And if I hit dash, we just go in that forward direction our player is looking. Anyway, that's been a way. Again, I hope you guys can see like how we can modify these state machines. Really, the key is to think about what a state is doing, in this case dash, and how I want to implement it. The nice thing is I can think about this implementation independent of everything else, because this has, the implementation is really just this. We're just doing t minus time dot delta time, and then calling the dash move over and over again. And really, we think about the implementation and then the transition. When do I want to transition? Well, if I run out of dash time, I want to transition back to grounded or the air state. So this helps us separate our logic out. I hope you can see that. And thank you for watching.